I shot a wedding with this microphone. I don't usually shoot weddings. I've done a few, but this was a favor for an associate that happened to tie in perfectly to the Saramonic K9 microphone that I was planning to make a video on. So what better way to test a brand new piece of gear than to shoot something totally simple and not at all stressful, like a wedding? Let me tell you about the wedding. It was here in Slovenia, up near the top of Pohorje, one of our most beautiful mountains, on a small lake or pond with these insane views. We had 6 cameras total, including a drone. I'll walk you through them all. I set up a lock shot pointing down the walkway to the wedding platform, pointing at the bride and groom, shot on a Lumix S1 IIe with the Panasonic 24-105 f4 lens. This started wide as the wedding party walked down the platform, then I zoomed it in closer to fill the frame with the platform itself once things got started. By the way, for my Lumix people, this was sitting in full sun, 35 degrees Celsius, 95 Fahrenheit, and it rolled for over 30 minutes through the entire ceremony and then got moved to handheld, always shooting 6K open gate with 0 overheating issues. I was hand-holding this camera, the Lumix S1 II with the 70-200 f4. I wanted the shaded monitor, I had the Saramonic K9 receiver, timecode, and a few more things. We'll talk more about this rig in a minute. Adnan was shooting with the S5 IIX, primarily to get shots of me for this video, but he also shot B-roll of the wedding throughout the ceremony. I mounted 2 Insta360 Ace Pro 2 cameras, white ones, fortunately, on the wedding platform, which unfortunately I had these massive posts which were too big for any of my mounting rigs, so we had to attach the cameras to ropes. Shot's gonna be a little bit crooked, but it's just the way it's gonna be. I have one motorcycle mount that was perfect for this as it allowed me to position the cameras just right, but the second one was on a super clamp with no ball head. Honestly, I didn't think to pack a ball head, so it's at a jaunty angle, meaning any shots from there have to be rotated and cropped quite a bit. The father of the groom, who booked us, specifically wanted drone shots because of the epic location. This is an extremely last-minute request, and literally every single drone pilot I know, or anyone that I know knows, was already booked or on vacation, so we had to shoot it ourselves using my old Mavic Air. But all in all, Yuri, the pilot, was a champ and was still able to get enough flight time and enough footage for our needs. And we even used the Saramonic WeTalk 9X comm systems that I just made a video about recently to keep in contact with our crew. Super cool. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link to it at the end of this one and also down below. That was really fun, shooting a concert rehearsal and really testing out its range capabilities. Let's talk about the K9 mic on set and how it fit in and why it was the perfect match for this shoot. It's a digital UHF mic, which if you don't understand what that means, I'll point you in the right direction at the end of this video to learn more about that. With built-in 32-bit float recording to a micro SD card that's here inside of the battery compartment. Since it's to a micro SD card, there's no internal storage limitations. It also takes AA batteries, which I certainly appreciate because that means that you don't have to worry about forgetting to recharge your microphones before you go on set. Standard AA's for the win. The mic set comes with an extremely durable and really, really tiny 3mm microphone. I mean, look at the size of this thing. Even though it's so small, it actually sounds great. You're hearing me through this right now. And for durability, now, I'm not going to do these tests myself, but I'm going to link below to the full video of these insane durability tests that Saramonic has run on this tiny cable.
Adding a little bit more pressure.
Saramonic also has a really robust iOS and Android app, so you can configure the mics remotely, monitor levels, as you can see here, control up to 48 mics at once, do firmware upgrades, and start and stop internal recording, which this is currently recording right now. And we'll talk about a little snafu that I had with this a bit later on in the video. But the most important feature for me is external timecode sync. Now, this is a really critical detail. Most mics that I've worked with that support timecode actually just make their own timecode, which they feed into the onboard recording and also feed into the camera so that you can easily sync the video and the audio files later. And this is great as long as you're on a single camera shoot. But as soon as you want to sync the microphone to some other timecode system that all of your other cameras are connected to, you can't. This is a real limitation for a lot of mics. So the K9 is great because it does let you sync external timecode. Saramonic does make their own timecode hardware, but these support any standard timecode generators like those from Deity or Atomos or Tentacle Sync. You can jam sync over the USB input or the microphone input. Watch. This is the Deity TC1, very standard in the industry. We can see this is currently running and what the timecode is, 1, 10, 33, and so on. Let's fire this guy up. And we see the time code is currently set to 2147 and so on. So I'll go into the menu, navigate to timecode, and here you can set how it syncs. Does it sync over microphone in or USB? I'm going to use the microphone in port, then I'll just take this plug this in, and as soon as I do, we'll see the time code comes up here externally, and it is now synced internally. That's it. Now I can unplug this, and this will keep very accurate time code. Now, I'm in fact using this right now, so the mic pack that is recording me for this demo is actually running on synced time code to the house time code. So you can see the time code here that is synced to the rest of the cameras in the house. It also looks like my battery is getting low. Now, all that said, there is a really important limitation to the K9, which you need to be aware of. Unlike most audio mic receivers that output timecode as an audio signal from the receiver into the camera on one channel, which you would then convert to timecode in the NLE, while simultaneously outputting a mix of the microphones on the other channel, so your left or right channel, which you can then use as a backup recording, the K9 does not do that. The K9 assumes that you will be feeding timecode into your camera from your timecode generator, which is fine if you have a camera like the Blackmagic Pixis, which I had to send back, or any cinema camera that has dedicated timecode input, because your audio input will still be free for the Saramonic receiver. But on any camera that doesn't have a timecode input, you have to rely on putting timecode on the audio track, which this does not do. Now, to be fair, you don't need to have audio recorded in camera, but for something as important as a wedding, I didn't want my only source of audio to be the recording on the mic pack. What if the groom fell into the water on his way back to shore? That'd be bad. The microphone is IP67 rated. It would be fine, but the mic pack is not. So what I did was route the audio from the mic pack into my external Axoon Cineview M7 Pro, putting the audio in here, hitting record on here so that I had a full recording of everything the camera saw throughout the entire ceremony, as well as a backup recording of the audio. Now, one more important thing for my US viewers to know, there is another limitation that is not a hardware limitation, but a legal patent limitation. A company called Zaxcom holds a patent on the ability to both transmit and record at the same time in the United States. Only. When you buy the K9, it is a global kit that will work anywhere in the world, but its features are geo-locked. So when you're in the United States, the phone app will recognize where you are, and it will lock the ability to both transmit and record simultaneously. As soon as you leave the United States, though, you'll be able to do both at once, as I did for this production. It's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of patent law. It's kind of like the old raw internal recording patent law that Red had. This only affects US users. In the rest of the world, you can do both at once. But let's get back to the wedding. I had two mics and was requested to not mic up the bride. Fortunately, most of what she says in the ceremony would be in close proximity to the groom, so we put a mic on him, cleverly hidden inside of his tie. His suit was beige, and I didn't want to have a visible wire, so this was the solution that I went with. I was actually quite proud of that mic mounting. It worked out really, really well. There's even a cute interaction we caught at the end of the ceremony where he was explaining to his new bride that he was wearing a mic pack and that the mic was stuffed into his tie. Here, have a listen.
Ja sam serio zvučen.
Kitao.
Ja ne vidiš, zadnji imam onega, veš, za pasom črnega.
Ja.
Pol pa imam tu, se ne mogu sveč, pa je zadnji za kravato spodaj, sem naredil.
The mic packs have a locking door to protect the buttons and external antenna for great range. There's also a headphone port on the mic so you can monitor directly if you want to. After micing up the groom, I mic'd up the officiant. His was easier, just on the lapel since his suit was dark. Unfortunately, I also learned at the event that there were two officiants. So unfortunately for her dialogue, we had to rely on the more echoey dialogue picked up by the groom's mic from the PA system they used. Look, it was all very, very last minute, so we were scrambling. The K9 kit includes a nice carrying case with various accessories, including things like color tags, so that you can visually identify which mic is which. You can see that on this one, I've put the green color tag on it. You can also rename the mic so you see the name on the digital face. If we look at my mic right now, you can see that it says Joseph right there. And it'll put that name into the file name. Anyway, once both mics were in place, I followed them around with the receiver, listening to their audio to make sure that it was clean and free of any rustling. The receiver pack is extremely cool. You can see information about both microphones on the receiver. This shows me the status and the levels of the mics. It shows me the time code is running, and it shows the name, and it also shows that my battery is getting very, very low. The top mic is currently not on, so it's not showing up on there. If you look at the top of the pack, you'll see additional information there, and the positioning of it is quite clever, so that if you were to mount this on top of a camera, so you're just shooting it like this, you would be able to see that information clearly. You can actually even rotate that in the settings, so if it makes more sense to have it the other way, you can do that. It also has two outputs, A and B on here. You can output individual mics on the individual outputs. So let's say you wanted to record internally and you had an XLR setup, you could do one cable out of each A and B into your XLR recorders. Or you can have one of them mix both mics, A and B, and then use the second one as a monitor to plug your headphones into. All completely configurable, however it makes sense for your setup. Now, I'm going to share with you the one big mistake that I made that just about gave me a heart attack on the shoot. Completely and totally my fault, so I'm going to share this with you so you don't make the same mistake I did. I had their mics on them about 30 or 40 minutes before the ceremony, so I didn't want to start recording right away. I should have just hit record as soon as I mic'd them up, but I figured I'd just do it later. Well, I nearly forgot, and suddenly the groom and the officiant are on the platform waiting for the bride. I realize at that point that I'm not recording. Well, no problem, right? I've got the app, I can just connect and start recording from there. Well, it's a Bluetooth connection and I was out of range. So I had to run down the platform and literally with shaking hands, find the record menu on the mic packs. You can actually hear the groom say,
He's here.
as I'm firing up the second recorder. Just start recording when you put the mic pack on, okay? Just trust me on this. I've talked about 32-bit float audio recording quite a bit on this channel before, and this was a perfect example of why it's so awesome to have. First, as I said, I captured audio for both the bride and the groom on one mic, the groom's mic, and even for the second officiant, which mostly came from the groom's microphone. Then there was often blasting music, which people had a tendency to stand right next to the speaker for, which definitely clipped the recordings, but could be brought down to usable levels using 32-bit float if I wanted to use some of that music in the video. Check out this screen capture and pay attention to the levels as they're being adjusted to even everything out.
Zakonsko zvezo z navzočo nevesto Julijo Marcel Ficko.
Da.
Nevesta Julija Marcel Ficko, čim ženinom Blažom Trlepom.
Da.
Prosim še vaju, da prijete se podpisati.
This is a professional microphone kit, and it proved itself very, very worthy on this wedding. As I said in the beginning, this is a digital UHF wireless mic. If you want to understand more about what that actually means, which is honestly a bit above my pay grade, I'm linking below to a video by Gerald Undone where he dives deep into the nerdy stuff specifically about this microphone. And of course, to learn more about the mics or to pick up a set, there's links for that down there too. While you're down there clicking on things, you may as well hit those like and subscribe buttons as well. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.